Okay, everybody, I was going to say good morning, but good afternoon. We will get started a little bit, and I will introduce Mark in just a minute, but I wanted to remind everyone a week from today, from 3 to 5 p.m., we are having our Innovation Challenge finale. This is the opportunity for 10 students to win their chance at $17,500. So we've raised this money through our supporters, Credit Union West, Grand Canyon, Blackstone, ASU, and NACE, which is the Everyday Entrepreneur Program. They have provided us this money and opportunities for students to follow their dreams. Now, one of the neat things you may see, the middle column, that $2,500. If you show up and listen to these 10 finalists, you are going to get a chance to vote for which one you think your favorite is. That person at the end of the day is going to be handed a check for $2,500. So it's a great opportunity. And if you are one of the 10 people who are going to be doing this, and you hear this on video or you're here live, invite your friends, your family, bring them in. We are not checking people to see who's voting. You do not get a maximum number of people to show up. So if you can bring 100 people, hopefully they vote for you, but bring 100 people. So that is happening next Wednesday, and we want to thank all of our sponsors, Credit Union West, who wasn't able to be here today, for their endless support of our GCC Achieve program and what we do with entrepreneurship and small business. I also want to make sure to let you all know on Thursdays from, I believe it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., they are in our faculty office at 01. There is a professional banker there every Thursday to answer your questions. If it's personal banking, business banking, loans, anything you may need, they are in office, Amy, 138 is the number? 120. I was so close. I got the first number right. Office 129. And like I said, they're some of the nicest people, and usually they have some great giveaways too. So go say hi in their office, they'll give you something, and they'll educate you. All right. Lastly with this, I just want to make sure, again, all of you know, if you miss this opportunity, it's going to be back again in the fall. It'll be a little bit different in the fall. We always grow and improve, but we will have another contest in the fall, an opportunity for you to participate and to earn money, make money, and start a business. So stay involved, sign up for our QR code that takes you to the Canvas page, and get involved with our businesses. Okay. Now, we were very lucky to kind of stumble across a GCC alum who happened to play football here in 1991 and 1992, if I remember the years correctly. And as I did my research and getting ready for this, found out that this was one of the best teams that GCC fielded in 1991. If I read that correctly, if I remember correctly, they went to a bowl game. And it is something, and I will say this, we've got a couple of former coaches in the room and obviously a former player in the room. Boy, if there was any way we could put together a business plan to get football back at GCC, that would be a neat contest. But that's not today's contest, so we're not going to go there. But Mark is a graduate of GCC and went on to Southern Utah after his time here. It is incredible to see Gauchos who have graduated and are coming back and giving back to the community. Also, it is incredible to see Gauchos who graduate and go out and are huge successes. What Mark does is he is involved in pre-construction and project management. He's been doing this with his own company since 2007. And he has worked on projects, and I'm going to kind of make this personal for a little bit. I spent time in Tampa. I loved the work he's done down at Yankee Stadium in Tampa, the George Steinbrenner Field. That is a beautiful facility. He's also done work here at ASU and other local places. He works on sports facilities, civic spaces, parks, recreation, mixed-use developments, has worked with national and international firms, taking leadership roles as a cost estimator, pre-construction manager, program manager, construction manager, and owner's representative. What is so neat and what you will find out today is that there are a lot of levels in the construction world. And having the right person protecting your interests makes the difference between businesses and projects being successful, unsuccessful, within budget or not within budget. So with that, I'm going to let Mark come up here and talk about how he does some of the amazing things he does and how he used GCC as a launching pad to get where he is going. So everyone, Marc Taylor, please. And if you want to stand up here, there's this, or if you want to walk around, we have handheld microphones.
Okay.
That goes forward.
Okay.
Turn it on. Yep, and backwards.
Okay.
There
Great.
you go.
Thank you. All right.
Now I'll get out of your way. I'll take this so I can ask you questions later.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come speak. I haven't been back to this campus in a very long time, I think since I came to school here. And it brings back memories. It's really good for me just to kind of figure out, where I came from. And I think that's really why, we go to these community colleges. It was for me, and I'd like to talk to you about how I started and, where I came from and how I ended up at Glendale and then how I ended up where I am, because I don't think that, when I'm here at Glendale and I'm reminded of all the things I had to do to get to where I am today. I mean, I started right where you guys were sitting, at your tables there, going to school, trying to work, trying to figure out what you're going to do next. And I was in that position, and to think that I'm where I am today versus where I was there's a story behind it, and there's things that triggered me to make a decision that just because I started school at Glendale, didn't go to ASU or U of A, wasn't going to hold me back on what I wanted to do and where I wanted to sort of be. And as you'll hear my journey, you'll know that some of that wasn't always clear. In fact, there's a lot of things that impacted me that changed the way that I looked at the world that I did not see when, I was younger. So, well, that's crazy. That almost got me emotional. But because I've got my coaches here who kind of know what I went through. But let me just talk to you about it. I think it's important to understand, where I came from in the West Side, because I think a lot of you guys have probably come from the same place I have. I went to Apollo High School, where I went to school. I'm a native. I grew up 45th Avenue in Brown, which was between Peoria and Dunlap, and I grew up on that side of town. And I think anyone that familiar with Arizona knows that if you grew up on the west side of I-17, versus the east side of I-17, you kind of lived in a different culture on the west side. I think we were tougher, on the west side of I-17 than most people. So, the Maryvilles and, the Avondales and the Tollisons and the Cactus High Schools and all those things, we were just sort of naturally tough. So, I had, grew up, my mom was, widowed. I had, my biological father, but the family that I grew up with was with my mother, and my stepdad had passed away when I was in 5th grade, and I had, brothers and sisters, and my mom was pregnant with my youngest sister, about 8 months pregnant when she lost her husband, and so I kind of grew up in that environment where there wasn't, ultimately a lot of money, to do a lot of things that, a lot of my friends that could go to ASU could do, and at least we're headed in that trajectory. So at a young age, I did not really see myself, going to school or going to make those decisions, because I didn't really ever see an avenue to do that. But nonetheless, I had, I competed in School was not a top priority. Sports was a top priority for me. I really did whatever I could to sort of, play every sport and do everything I could to excel at that with big aspirations, to one day, play at a collegiate level at something or do something special in sports. And so I think when I got through high school, I realized that, I didn't really have any direction. There wasn't a lot of schools looking at me for sports, and I think I was not really feeling like I could even find the front door of a college campus, or how I would go about going to school and work and do all those things. And so, meanwhile, I probably wasn't making the best decisions at the time. I was probably going out, partying a lot, doing a lot of things that kids do at that age. And I think that, that summer, at least that winter, I kind of really realized that, I wasn't heading in a good direction. I had a job. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with that job. It was really a downer for me to know that I didn't have a lot of direction right then, and what steps I needed to take to sort of get out of that hole. And kind of a funny story. This is kind of comical on how I ended up here. And I think it's funny to note, it's only a West Sider probably would go through something like this. But so one day I was actually outside. I sat out my first year of going to school, and I was out in my front yard, and one of these guys that I was kind of a bully in my high school. He actually got held back in his third grade class, and since that day he got dropped off in my classroom at Sunset Elementary. We fought every day our entire lives, even into high school. After football practices and after games, we would fight because I was the big guy on campus, and he was a bigger guy on campus. And so he drove by one day, and I'm out, and he's playing football at Glendale, and we get out, we yell at each other, we get in a fight, we fight outside in my front yard, and at the end of it all, and I think he probably got the better of me at that point because I wasn't in the best shape, and we sat on my yard, and he said, "Hey, I expected something better from you. Like, I didn't see you. Not going to school, not doing something with yourself." So through that effort, and his name was Andy Perkins, and so, but we had a moment where, somebody looked at me and said, "Hey, I see more in you than what you're showing, and, I think you need to go walk on at Glendale." Sorry, I had no idea that I was going to get emotional on this, but it just kind of takes me back. But so he convinced me that, there was a front door to Glendale Community College, and that I needed to walk on. So, oh man, sorry guys. But at that time, I think, even that, can imagine, I didn't have a job. I didn't really, my family life wasn't that great. I knew I needed to walk on. And so, but I made the decision to do it. And then that journey to do that and seeing that through, it was kind of what drove me to, where I am today. And I think as I made those decisions to do that, I was getting up. I wanted to change everything. I think what I realized, at that point is that I was good at everything, but I wasn't great at anything. And so, because of that, I think people excelled and got to do things that I didn't do because I was just really never deciding that it was time for me to, to focus on something. So I said, look, I'm going to change my life based on what I learned, and I'm going to focus on, going to school and walking on to play football. And I had to have a job to do that. I would water plants in the morning at 4 a.m. at home base, and I would ride my bike literally from 45th Avenue in Dunlap to 51st and Bell and water plants so I could make a few bucks, and then I would, come to school and go to practice. And it's funny, I walked on, and every time I see Coach Kirstein, which is here, by the way, he said, he always reminds me of the conversation, but I walked on as a linebacker, right? So I thought I was going to be a great linebacker. And when I got here, there were some unbelievable athletes that were here. And so, and it came down to the very end where, Coach basically said, look, I have an opportunity for you. It's not linebacker. If you want to make this team, this is where you're going to play. It's great. I just want to be on the field, right? I just want to not embarrass myself. I need to make the team. I set out to do all this stuff. And so I took that position on, and then Coach Epley is my offensive line coach. He's here today, and I had no idea they were going to be here today, guys, so it means a lot. That's probably why I'm getting a little bit emotional, because I know that they know the history behind it. But so anyway, I think what, coming to the campus, the two things that really stood out for me is, one, on the athletic side, we had, a lot of people that were like me, and we had played for a championship program. And I think the one thing that the coaches, that staff said to me was, it takes a little bit more to make a champion. And they drove that to us through our head in our freshman year. And you would think, hey, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, it was a measuring stick. Like I needed to hear that you needed to work harder to get something. And so I think, that conditioning, was really important to me developing as a young man and turning in from a young kid and turning into, the sort of adult, warrior, I would say. We call it man-making camp. And so, and the other thing that they pounded into us was that, it takes a little bit more to make a champion, and that whole psyche of everything that we did, it took a little bit more. And if I wanted to be successful, I could no longer operate the way that I was. I needed to focus on something, and I needed to build on that. And so, having that, and then being a part of the community of the school, and being exposed and taking the steps to, I didn't know what classes to take, and I didn't know where, what was the right path. But I think understanding, getting involved in, for example, like a communications class. As soon as I got involved in that, and I had the opportunity to go speak in front of other people and prepare my own speeches and do all that, I realized that was a weakness that I had, and it was something that I needed to sort of perfect if I wanted to be good in anything. I needed to know how to speak to people. And so, but as I got through and I started to see like who was around me, in the community level, it really was just a founding. It was a starting point for me to make progress in my life, right? And that was really important, is that you can't, if you got something that you want to do, sometimes it's not always clear where the path that you get there is not exactly the way you want it to be, but you want to make progress. You want to be around like-minded people. And I think the community college allowed that to occur. I can remember all my friends going to ASU and U of A, and I was just thinking that, the only reason I couldn't do that is because, one, I wasn't the best student. Two, we didn't have the money to do it. Three, I wanted to play sports, and all those things were, only the community college allowed me to do those things, right? And so, so I from there at Glendale, I played my 2 years. We played for 2 championship teams, and for those of you that don't know the history behind it, we got living legends here on the coaching staff here that really did some great things for the community college here. I mean, they won a ton of national championships, and they're just unbelievable culture that they brought into this. But I went, when I first tried to walk on at Glendale, I could bench 225 pounds twice because I was such out of shape. And I'm like, I'm going to get cut. And so they finally let me get in pads, and I did a pretty good job in pads. So I think I made the team. But then gradually, I just kept that attitude of grit and ultimately got a scholarship to Southern Utah to play football over there and continued my education into Southern Utah. I think and got to play football over there. And, that experience, to get to that point really came, from the psychology of coming through the community college campus and understanding that making progress is better than doing nothing, and that allowed me to start to move things forward.
Mark.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. So one of the things that I really learned, and I ended up being, and I sharing this with you. I don't want to focus on the sports as much as I want to focus on the psychology of what I was going through, and I think that's what I really want to explain to everybody is that, I was like a second team all conference at Glendale, a second team all conference at Southern Utah. I was all conference, but again, in my mind, I was like, gosh, I was good at everything, but I wasn't great at anything. And I started too late on football. And if I had started earlier, maybe I would have been pursuing. It just, this clear message kept happening that I needed to get direction in my life if I wanted to excel. And so when I got through into my professional career, and it wasn't clear to me what I was going to do, but I knew that I needed to make a decision sooner than later about what I was going to do with my life, right? And because I wanted to be great at something and not just good at something. And I saw a lot of people around me, my family, my uncles, and that were still trying to figure out what kind of job they wanted to do. They're 40 years old, still trying to figure out what they're going to do, and which is fine. But I saw that there was benefit in understanding what you wanted to do earlier, right? So because you wanted to excel that, and so my first opportunity, my first job that I had gotten out of college was to go to worked at Luke Air Force Base. I was managing. I came in there, super hungry for my first job opportunity, and it was about the time that Windows had come online, and the computer systems had sort of changed from the DOS to Windows, and I got involved in this design build contract where we were responsible for designing and constructing and building, with self-perform subs. That means that we were building things in-house, fast-tracking projects for the federal government. So I went through a program where ultimately we did 46 different design build projects within that period of time for the federal government at the fastest pace possible, at the highest risk possible, the highest security clearance possible. And I remember one night I was immediately driven. I knew that I needed to work hard on my job to excel. And I can remember one night where I had gone through I'm on my 20th design build program. I'm in a good position because I understood Windows, and all the other old timers were on DOS, and so I was already sort of moving into a good position. I really started to realize that understanding costs and labor and production rates and building vertical buildings where I was managing and overseeing work tickets of earthwork operations and concrete operations and drywall and mechanical and electrical at a level that nobody would, that maybe other people were exposed to it. For me, it was this gold mine of information that I'm like, I can take this. I'm at a level right now where I can absorb this, and I could be the best at this because of what I'm experiencing here with this knowledge. Now, I don't think everyone else on the job site looked at it the same way I did. I looked at it like, hey, I got a real opportunity here. And I decided one night, I can remember, that this is what I'm going to perfect. I'm going to perfect this craft, and I'm going to be the best that I possibly can be at it, along with everything else that I can bring to the table. And from there, I finished like 50 different design build projects. I applied for a project, a number of jobs. I had gotten burned out on it, and I wanted to do something else. And I interviewed for this company, local company. Back to got on my Facebook page today and said, "Hey, don't forget to mention me in the meeting." So I'll say Jeff Turner at Abacus. But he hired me, and at a very young age, so I was about 27, 28 years old, and he got me into the consulting industry. His company, his business was to consult for U of A, ASU, City of Phoenix, all the design architects in town, and we would advise them on how to do early estimates and manage that design to make sure that it designed within that budget. And so through that effort, at a very young age, I was consulting for, state of Arizona, developers, U of A, ASU, Maricopa County Community Colleges, doing performing arts centers, heavy highway civil projects. And I became one of probably 4 consultants out there that provided these services, and little did I know that decision to excel at that put me in this unique sort of position to provide a service, to master a craft, to be no different than someone that goes to a trade school to do steel or masonry. I had perfected that craft, and so from there I went to work for. I did that for 3 years, got a lot of exposure in Arizona, and somebody had walked into a meeting. We had a project out at Sky Harbor, and somebody walked in and said, "Hey, we got this new delivery method. It's called construction manager at risk, and it's basically where the construction manager comes in and be this consultant, right? And he provides the numbers and the leadership through the design process." Because at the time, everything was publicly bid. So I was out predicting how projects would publicly bid across the state. So 5, 10, 15, $100 million projects. I was the one behind the scenes saying, this is going to bid at this number, right? And if it didn't bid, they had to redesign it, go back and rebudget, and it was just a major thing. So they paid well for us to be right. So once this happened, I realized there was that I needed to change my approach, and that I needed to go work for a large construction manager. And I went to work in Dallas, Texas, to work for a company called Bovis Lend-Lease, which is a major international construction management firm. It was out of Dallas, and we, I had my exposure to, $100 million projects, would have been $1 billion projects in today's market. And we did a lot of hospitals and healthcare. Was a pre-construction manager, senior estimator for them, and where I really took my consulting skills that I learned how to be a professional communicator to architects and owners and developers and attorneys and things. And then I moved into it at risk construction, on big projects. So now I've taken the polished sort of consulting side of me to the actual reality of building some of these monstrosities. I really started to perfect this skill that a lot of people didn't have the opportunity to do. A lot of guys just roll up being a contractor. I was a contractor and I was a consultant. And so not only did I have the actual real risk of working within that environment, but I was also a consultant. And put me in a realm of understanding that a lot of people didn't have. So from there I decided that I missed my mom and my family, and I wanted to come back to Phoenix, and I went to work for a company that did sports projects primarily, and at least at the time, and they were known for that. And there was a startup office in Phoenix. The company was called Barton Mallow, and we did a lot of Maricopa County Community College districts. It's kind of a funny story, but I came in and I thought, I'm going to have an opportunity. Like, I'm one of the few guys in my industry that actually came from the JUCO level at Glendale Community College. And I remember my first opportunity where there was a project, I think it was a student union expansion. We came out and we did an interview, because the way it would work in our industry is that you would get an RFQ and you'd respond, you'd put together the team, and you'd go present to a committee. And that committee would tell you whether or not you got that job. And I remember I came in, on our first project, and I'm telling my team, I'm like, oh, I'm going to win this job. This is Glendale Community College. I'm going to win it. And, I pulled out a picture of football and I put it up on the screen when we were doing our PowerPoint presentation, and I thought, gosh, I got it. And of course, we didn't get the job, right? So I'm like, oh, geez, so much for that education, right? And then another one came out like 3 months later, and it was actually at a different campus, and we ended up, same people that were interviewing us actually gave us a job on this one, and so it was a big win and really important for us, and I actually got handshakes at the end of it, from the people that worked at Maricopa County, and I do think that they treated me different because I was coming from the same place that they worked, and we were kind of cut from the same cloth. Well, we were also really good at what we did, and I don't think they did us any favors, but we ended up getting 2 more jobs from them consecutively. We had 3 jobs, and through that, through those relationships and them, sort of focusing on the services that I delivered at the time, put us in a position, sort of win those jobs. And I think, so it's great for things to go back, sort of full circle. But on the Barton Mallow side, we were also doing Major League Baseball projects, and what was unique about what I had learned, and I think what I'm hoping you're understanding, is that everything that I did coming through my journey is I learned from people, and I learned. I was a sponge, and I felt like everything that I was doing, I really believed that there was a bigger purpose for me, and so, having a purpose sort of driven attitude, believing in yourself, all these things that came into my life, I wanted to use those as opportunities to learn and to grow and figure out what I wanted to do and not wanted to do, and who I wanted to be like and not wanted to be like, and who was sincere and who wasn't, right? And so those things became really important. I think when you come from where we're going to come, where you're all coming from, is that all these things, including me speaking to you today, is an opportunity for you guys to learn and develop and believe, right? That there is, that there can be a purpose for you, but you got to take steps to move forward with that. And I think what ultimately led to that, when I got through those things, I really remember thinking that the obstacles that I came up against and where I was in my career, nothing was as hard as me making a decision when I was 18, 19 years old to go walk on. It was that decision to do that was the hardest thing I ever did, and I knew that when I got into my career and I made that decision, nothing was harder than making that decision to get out of that spot, right? It really carried through me. I can remember going into business, making decisions to go into business, which was just like walking on. When I decided to leave that company, Barton Mallow, and I wanted to go start my own company, it was just like walking on. And I said, and I remember thinking to myself, gosh, I could fail and embarrass myself, right? Like, I got this great job, I can go, and people could not like me, I could do this and that. And it was really, really hard. But because I made those decisions early to take those risks, it allowed me. I remember thinking to myself, I don't have anything to lose, and I'm willing to lose everything, And once I was willing to do that, when I say willing to lose everything, I'm willing to be humbled, and I'm willing to be embarrassed, and I'm willing to just go for it, right? And that, I learned that by what I decided to do when I was 18, 19 years old. And so going into the market with that attitude really allowed me to be confident in what I was doing, to never be, insecure about it, because I believed in my message, I believed in my purpose, and I knew that I may fail, and I'm going to pick myself up, and I'm going to keep going. And that message allowed me to get through some difficult things. And I started my company in the worst possible time that you could ever start a company. I started my company in December of 2007. And if you guys don't know this, but September of 2008, the whole market crashed. The worst economic, crash, since the Great Depression. In some cases, probably worse. And so, if you can imagine, I've got no money, no income, no nothing, and then the world crashes, and and I set out to be this, great, sort of builder, project manager, estimator, and my brand mission was to go sell those services to the market. And because of that economy, I wasn't able to go fulfill that because I was limited. I was constrained to what the market would allow at that time. And I was scrapping. I was scrapping, guys, to make paychecks, to get, to get a project, to get a contract. I was, I would do anything to make, make ends meet. And it was, I can remember thinking to myself, this isn't the path that I quite envisioned, right? But I'm here, I'm on my 2 feet, I'm doing what I need to do to make it, but it was very difficult. And I think, fortunately for me, I held through that. I got some big opportunities, and the first big job that I got hired to do, there was 2 of them. One was I had just completed the Indians and Reds project over in Goodyear, and there was a private development that was surrounding that ballpark. And as soon as I started my company, they gave me an opportunity to take over that development because it was troubled and it was upside down, and they needed someone to come in and fix it and provide that. And then I also got hired to do the downtown Maricopa Court Tower, which was at the time was one of the largest fast-track projects, in Maricopa County history, and I got involved in that job, and those 2 jobs really allowed me to get through that recession, and because that recession lasted from like 2008 to almost 2014, it was a really, really difficult. A lot of people went out of business in that front, and so. Everyone will tell you what their worst year was. Some people say 2008 was the worst year, or 2009. My worst year was 2012, and I can remember. I had completed the Maricopa Court Tower, and I completed this other private development project, and I remember I had hired a bunch of people. I had hired a couple people, and I remember thinking. I was out with a friend, and I was worried I wasn't going to be able to make payroll because people weren't paying in a timely way at the time. Everyone was really protecting their money, so we'd complete a job, and it would get 6 months to get paid. And I'm like, man, I can't make payroll if these guys don't pay me, right? So I remember thinking, gosh, I might not make it. I might actually. I can't believe that 4 years into this that I might have to close doors. And I was telling my friend, I'm like, man, this is not the way this is supposed to end. This is not the way it's supposed to end. And so, through the help of God and a lot of prayer, which is a big part of, what's got me here too. So I want to. He's the greatest venture capitalist that you can have in your corner, and I found, I got paid, and I continued to press on, and because I got through that hard part, I was really sort of battle ready to go. I had gone through, as a walk-on college guy, I had done it, decided what I wanted to do in my career. I went through recession. I started the worst thing, and I'm like, here I am. I'm still standing. Then things started to open up for me, and I really got into. One of my big first projects as a program manager, in 2014, I won a project with the Washington Nationals and the Houston Astros, developing a project out in West Palm Beach to remediate a trash site, convert it into a 2-team spring training facility with a stadium. That really sort of launched my career, and I want to just tell you a little bit about who my company is and what we've done and how we've grown and give you guys a little bit more insight on that. So,
Before we get into your company, can I ask a couple questions, Mark?
Sure.
Because, this is great. talk a little bit about finding that passion, because like you said, you did a lot of things good, but finding that thing you could be great at. Talk a little bit more about how important that was and how you went through that process, and also maybe a little bit to that, how important the community was. I mean, you've got two coaches here. I'm not sure last time you've seen them, but when you get people that support you, what does that mean to you succeeding and you taking that next step?
Yeah. Well, I think well, two things. In terms of getting the support that I need, I think, looking for surrounding yourself in an environment to where, you can be mentored, and being willing to listen to that, whether it's positive or negative, really allows you to grow. And I think when you're transitioning out of something like I was, from doing nothing to doing something that was very risky, having the moral support of, Coach Kirsting and Coach Epley, giving me that signal that there was a measuring stick that allowed me to move forward. And I wouldn't say that every football player, and I'd be interested to know what Coach thought too, but I think that for me, I listened to it and I heard it, and it meant something. Like, it was the first time that somebody had said, hey, you can do this if you believe, and you can do this if you work hard, and you can do this if you finish the job, and you can do this if you do all these things, but you got to do it all the time, right? There's no part of the time. And so, but I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that was really important to my success. And if you don't look for those sorts of things, then you really are going to have a hard time trying to figure it out yourself. So I think those sort of things help. And I think from a campus standpoint, the teachers and things here on campus, being exposed to this, this first opportunity where I had people the same age as I was, that were in fact people that were older than I were, that were in these classes, all trying to make progress in their lives, and seeing that there were places for people to go focus on an education and skill sets that I didn't have. Not every class was impactful, but certain ones were really, really impactful to me. And I started to realize that there was a whole other universe here that I needed to tap into and move that forward. But so from a mentorship standpoint, that was really important. But I think the thing that allowed me, when I decided to be great at something, what separated me is that I took that information and I went and I could provide unit costs and productivity rates for just about every system, whether it was, mass excavation, concrete, masonry, drywall, mechanical systems, whether they were chilled water systems or rooftop package systems or 2-pipe or 3-pipe, or whether there was a gravity frame or a load-bearing frame, or if it was, this type of electrical system or that one. I had focused on it so much that every time I got up my day, I wanted to learn something new. And I perfected that craft. And when I did that, it put me in a realm where I would walk into a room to produce an estimate, and I would blow people away because they needed someone knowledgeable, and it allowed me to get things done faster and build things faster and solve things quicker, and in a market that was sort of driven by, hey, let's complete the plans, let's put a number to it, let's be $200 million over budget because we didn't have time to fix it. I was sort of the run, throat, the choke, but it was my commitment to be great that allowed me to do that. And so I think that whatever you do, whatever I chose to do, that was going to be that was going to be a theme within my journey. But just talk a little bit about my company. Again, Marc Taylor with a C, not with a K. There's a couple of Marc Taylors out there. I just checked my LinkedIn profile the other day, and I'm actually ranked higher than the Marc Taylor apartment builder. I don't know how that happened, but I've been working on that for a long time now. Keep on. Let me see. I'm in control of this. I'm used to people hitting it for me.
Just giving a company overview. This is the ballpark of the Palm Beaches project, that big trash site that we did. A couple 100-acre park, a couple $100 million project. I was the program manager for that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. My company's founded in 2007. I have now offices in Pensacola, Florida, office here in Phoenix, and I have an office in Kansas City. The services that we provide is program management, owner's rep, PMCM. Program management means that I'm involved in very complex, sort of high profile, fast track jobs that have to get done on time and have to be budgeted correctly. There's no failure, right? So sports project, you gotta hit opening day. A lot of people, a lot of bond, funding constraints, a lot of team opinions. I manage that process and make sure that everything stays within contract, and I manage the design, the construction, closeout, the contracts, bond reporting, budget reporting. I'm the one throat to choke when it comes to those developments. Cost consultancy and planning. I provide cost estimating services to continue to architects, developers, owners. We have like 8 annual service contracts right now. Sky Harbor, City of Phoenix, City Surprise. We have them in Florida and Missouri as well. And just being a cost estimator. I mean, a lot of times what will happen, we call it a cocktail napkin sketch, where somebody will come in and say, hey, we want to build a 100,000 seat stadium. We want a retractable roof. We want above grade parking. We'll literally scratch that out, give them a number, and say this is roughly what you're going to look at. And a lot of times that's enough to start that next phase of design and start that development. So MTI is very much a part of that. Claims analysis, financial accounting and controls, and then we focus our big bread and butter is the complex fast track delivery. So troubled projects that are in need of somebody that can estimate and solve problems in real time in a meeting, and not wait for the world to go off a cliff because we're waiting on design to complete and the contractor to verify it. We're kind of this real time sort of estimator. I've done over $20 billion in projects. This will be the projects that just give you an idea. 300 plus municipal projects, over $3 billion in project management, program management projects, 20 MLB teams, 175 renovation redevelopment projects, and 200 projects in public bid. So long history here of a lot of different types of programs. Here's just some of the sports expertise. These are clients of ours. You can see some of these logos here of teams that we work for, and this is kind of a short list of stuff, but funny story that about this is when I got, I played football, and I don't have as much football on here. I'm doing a lot of more Major League Baseball stuff, but anyway, I won't go into that. But it's kind of interesting how that part of my life made such an impact on me, but I haven't got as much football projects, so I'm working on that, looking to hire some people that do football. Municipal experience, you can see all the different municipalities that we work for. There's tons more across the country. That's working with the City of Phoenix, Glendale, Pima County, Mesa, Arizona. These people have hired us for varying capacities on the services that I had kind of went over. This is staff. Everyone's got a little story. I don't know if I'm sure you guys remember this guy. Greg Stinnett was a right tackle. He played right tackle with me, and I was right guard. So he's been a lifelong friend, and he's he's a guy that I can count on. He comes from the same place that I did, had challenges in his life. The one thing that is great about Greg is he's got that Glendale attitude, and if there's a concrete pour at 3 a.m., he's not missing it. He's going to be there, and he will always be there. He will never let me down, and he's been just a great guy to work with. Brian Lance used to work for the Cleveland Guardians. He ran their ballpark for 20 years. Bob Hawthorne did major casino projects. I actually met him, and it's this funny story. I'm telling you this because I just want you to know how life sort of works. I was at a gas station one day, I'm pumping gas, and somebody saw my logo on the side of the thing and said, hey, I got this guy that needs a job, he's relocating here. He's did these massive projects. So yeah, I call him, and the next thing you know, he's coming to my house, and I end up hiring him. And Kirk Pregler, he's my cousin, who I trained, and I went to California. My grandpa was went on a trip over there, passed away on that trip, and saw he wasn't doing much with himself. I said, hey, come to work with us in Phoenix. And the others are people that I had worked with along over the years. But this is kind of my management team, and they come from all walks of life. And I think what's important is that every one of these people have a different skill set. Some guys are operating off true grit. Some are really smart. Some are really educated. Some are just overachievers. But the main thing that all of them have is just grit, and they have perseverance, and they have effort. And there's nothing that I can buy. I don't care. I'll take effort any day over just about anything else. If you don't have that within you to do that, if you have it, you're in a special place. If you don't understand how important that is, it's going to be hard for you. Past work expertise. This is a picture of Progressive Field. It was our largest big project that we got, $500 million project. We got hired as a program advisor on that project. Give you some experience of that downtown court tower, $340 million. That bridge that goes across I-17 over there near, by Metro Center. We worked on that. That was the Valley Metro Bridge that goes across that. Got a hotel here, and this is Southern Avenue Streetscapes for Mesa. Performing Arts Building, we've worked on 3 Valley Metro projects, those, working on the train tracks and things that go through the city, so we had opportunities there. Sky Harbor, this is Maricopa County Community College project, Gateway ID, really, really cool project that we did during the recession. Kind of funny story, because I was a consultant at the time, and and we knew the markets went down. I mean, literally, numbers were coming in. If something cost $100,000, it was being bid for like 40,000, right? Or 100 million was now, 40 million. And so I remember telling the design team, I said, you guys have to push the design on this concept because these numbers are coming in really, really well. And that building really came out amazing as a result of that. Here's some big sports projects. Worked on ASU Sun Devil Stadium project, helping with that last big renovation project. This is the Progressive Field project. We just won University of Missouri, helping this expansion project over here in the back here. And I think this one right here, yeah, and that's another baseball project. I'm not sure which one that one is actually. That picture looks a little weird. Here's a bunch of Florida projects. Houston Astros, Washington Nationals, the Yankees project. This is a project we just completed as the program manager. Great story of another grit. I actually got hired by, and I got to be careful about some of the things I provide here, but I had the ballpark of the Palm Beaches where I did the Nationals and Astros project. Really challenging project for us. And we had, the Roger Dean project was just down the road in Jupiter, Florida, about a couple miles from that project. And, whenever you go through these big things in your life, sometimes, things don't go perfect, right? And so that one didn't go perfect. We didn't do anything wrong, but it was just, we had challenges. And so we worked through those challenges. And what's great is this project happened, it came out right as we opened that project, this new project. And so we didn't get it. And I'm like, geez, I just built this project, and this is what we do, Major League Baseball. You should have hired me for this next job. And one of our competitors ended up getting to do it. And so really downer for me, just another sort of setback when you think about the recession and that. Well, fast forward a year later, I get a call from the Miami Marlins and say, hey, we think we got a problem out there. We want to bring you back on this project. And they gave me an opportunity to come back in, and I ended up taking over that project. And so, which is an amazing story for me to come back after that adversity and then get the opportunity to build that project and have the owner of a company that called and said, hey, we talked to the Washington Nationals, we talked to the Houston Astros, we think you're the right fit for this project, we need you back involved in this. And we got it built, we got it open on time, and we just got it open here a few weeks ago. And big little $150 million project. Working as a program manager. Again, more MLB experience. In Arizona, we did the San Francisco Giants spring training facility expansion project. We just completed that in 2020. Did the Lou Wolf Training Complex Open A's project. And there's Nationals. I believe that is the Astros spring training facility. The Cincinnati Reds. Probably worked on, I probably worked on 18 different, Major League Baseball projects. The staff that I've hired also have worked on other projects, so we have a really enormous sports resume. When I talk about, I look at, we have 3 offices here. Phoenix, Pensacola, Kansas City, and as you can see, we're spreading, our company's spreading out, and I think, I think of all these places that I've touched, and some things I'm a consultant, some I'm building the project, sometimes I'm just program manager. It's the one thing that when I see this is that we're planting the seeds, right? We went out there to plant the seeds, but the day you plant the seeds is not the day you eat the fruit, right? So you really have to look at, when you look at your life and you're looking at your business and what you're doing, you have to plant those seeds, right? And you can't be disappointed that someone told you no, right? Or that somebody set you back, or someone said you weren't good enough, or whatever goes on in your mind. You got to plant those seeds and let water that tree, right? And continue to try to build that and build it and believe in it. And this is what this sort of map sort of tells me, that I'm planting a lot of seeds, I'm getting opportunities, and I encourage you to keep planting those seeds, What we do, some more things, feasibility studies, we work on development agreements, contracts, permitting, cost estimating. One of the things we also do is we've expanded is that we'll go into the stadiums and we'll let the contract, we'll manage the program, we'll be the program manager for all the project, the whole project, but then we'll also do like all the special systems like the scoreboards, the weight rooms, the kitchen equipment, the security, the teledata, the networks. We'll put all that stuff in as an owner direct contract, so my team will oversee those and put those systems in as an added bonus that we've now provided. So right now, pretty much people can hire us, although we have a cost and a fee, it's zeroed out because we're doing some of these additional items as a zero cost to the project from a fee standpoint. We're just paying a management fee. So oftentimes there's a great benefit financially to have us on the project, but also save them some money. Again, these are all things that we've work on: program management, schedule management, financial management, value analysis, value engineering, design and entitlement processes, and contract management. I'm not going to go into too much of this, but we do a lot of project administration and coordination, which is really there's things I don't want when I thought about the message I wanted to deliver today. I don't want to overwhelm you guys with what all the things that we do, because a lot of that is learned through your careers on how to deal with it, right? And how to be effective in managing it. But ultimately, it's all going to come from something that you specialized in, right? You got to have something that that you've specialized in, that you got really good at, and then you start to build on that and move forward and start to expand your careers. Financial management, cost control, obviously a big component of what we do. Schedule management. One thing that we do because of our craft is that we're able to to build these projects faster. We can predict what the future looks like, and we have now developed a really strong name for ourselves in sports because we have a track record of not missing an opening day, getting our budgets, and being very assertive in leadership of managing those projects. So it's really helpful when a client's got one person, that one throat to choke. That's evolution. I was not born with those abilities, right? It's all these things that led to this. And value analysis, value engineering. Project comes in over budget, we have to find ways to fix it. Design entitlement process, contract management, and really sort of covers the gamut of what we do. And so hopefully that gives you a good idea of what we do, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you all.
Before we open it up
for Q&A.
You mentioned perseverance, watering, and making sure you plant your information in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Can you talk, because it appears you've also realized where you can pivot in different places to give more, do something a little bit different. So how do those go hand in hand? Your perseverance, always being there for people, but also finding out what they need and finding a way to provide that, not necessarily what you want to give, but what they need.
Yeah. Can you re-ask that question? I'm sorry.
Sure. As you've gone through your 18, 20 years almost of owning your business, you probably started with a plane. And dealing with all the different stadiums, all the different municipalities, you've realized they may be looking for something different than what you're offering. How did you choose to, because it seems like you've been very flexible in saying, I'm now the one person, you turn the keys over to me, I'm going to hand you back a finished stadium.
Yeah.
How did you figure out the way to pivot and to give confidence that you know what you're doing?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. I think the one thing that allows us to adapt is that you have to be flexible, right? Having a flexible building, having a flexible business platform allows you to pivot and do it and be effective. And I think that's a strength of ours. We don't go into the world believing, and again, that's another thing in Glendale, that we have the same game plan for every game, right? And to believe that there's this canned world that you live in, that here are the rules that you have to play by, and you can't think outside of those boxes. That is something that is really sort of the kiss of death. You have to be flexible, and you have to figure out how to win the day and win that game. And you got to have an offensive strategy and a defensive strategy, and you got to be able to adapt to that. So I think with our business model, and to be honest with you, I'm not always, a lot of times I'll get something in my mind and I want to build it this way and this is what it's going to cost and I don't want anyone to deviate for it. Sometimes it's very hard for me to say, oh, let's explore this. Let's explore, a retractable roof. We don't have a roof now. Can we just look at that? Like, wait a minute, we got a schedule, we got to move forward, we got to, and so I have tried to create a business model to where I can answer those questions quickly and be flexible, so I can inform my client and move forward with a path that works for them. So I think the flexible model of being a cost estimator, being a program manager, being a claims analysis sort of provider, those three things, if you think about it, all sort of come together in terms of ourselves. Program management, stakeholder management, complexities of dealing with, the coaching staff, the ballpark operations, baseball operations, the unions, the teams, the players, the cities, the municipalities, and everyone else that has a stake in these things, all view these sort of a little bit differently from their lens. And that part of it is really important on the program management side. They need someone that can handle all those things at once.
the cost estimating, that really helps me, deal with those. If somebody says something in a meeting that, hey, we want a retractable roof, here's the number for it, and so that cost estimating expertise complements the program management. The program management complements the cost estimating. And then the claims analysis is just really like, hey, I do all this stuff, don't mess with us. We know how to resolve a claim. If you want to take it to that level, we're always prepared for that because of the services that we provide. And so we built a synergy on our business model to where all those things talk to each other. There's a language with MTI that comes together with all those services. And I think that allows the flexibility.
And one last question for you. And this is a more general, maybe not to your specific industry, but we've got a number of students here that are going to be in that pitch competition next week. So what piece of advice would you give to a student who is on the cusp of launching a business? Like what are the one or two things you would say, you got to feel this or you got to do this if you're really going to go out and take that next step?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first thing is that if you as you manage your risk, you have to be willing to fail, right? And I think that's probably the hardest thing when you start a business, is that that I'm going to take a leap of effort and leap of faith and try to do this, and you got to be willing to do it, and it's okay if you fail, right? There's not a lot of people watching, although you think there is. Have that sort of grit and strategy. So I think getting past that is going to give you confidence. I think you got to believe in don't go into business if you don't believe in the service that you're providing, right? Okay? You got to believe in it. I am not personally a believer that, that, hey, go where your heart takes you, or, go do what you want. If you want to be a rock star, go be a rock star. I do not believe that we can all be rock stars, right? And I think you have to make decisions that you're going to perfect your craft, and that you're going to go into that believing that, because your clients are going to sense that from you if they believe you, and that's how you sort of do business. And I think, understanding the markets that you're going to go after, right? You have to give yourself a territory, and don't make the world this big. Zero in on the areas that you need to make successful, to where you need to make progress on, so you can start to build that company, right? If you make it so big, you're going to sit in your room staring at the ceiling thinking, how am I going to do this? Narrow your target and then focus on that target, and then go be successful in chunks. That would be my advice if you're starting right now, how you're going to start your business.
Questions out there? You're the same one as me then.
Just like a small question, do you personally, like as your business, you're a creator and stuff like that, do you have any signatures that you personally like building, whether that's like a seating arrangement or like field work or stuff like that, like any signatures that we can go into a baseball field and be like, oh, this guy made that?
Is there something that is Marc Taylor specific when we go to ASU, Sun Devil, or I guess Mountain Bank Stadium, whatever it's called now? Will we see something that is you that jumps out?
Will you see something that's me? Well, we did yeah, it's a loaded question. So if you go out to Gilbert Regional Park, I don't know if you guys have ever been there. If you guys are looking for something to do on 4th of July, go to Gilbert Regional Park. It is one of the best places to go for 4th of July. Great park, and if you go out there, you'll see my name on the splash pad. I don't get that opportunity on a lot of my projects. I would say no. I would say that I don't necessarily get the credibility like the architect would get it, or maybe the builder might get it on certain fronts. I'm happening behind the scenes, very impactful, but a lot of the stuff I happen is behind the scenes. So the trademark of an MTI project would be to work on the most difficult, complex projects that are out there and that we got it done. I'll give you a great example. Legacy Sports Project. I don't know if you guys have heard of that project. Out in Mesa, massive sports complex. We got hired to take that over because it was trouble, and you guys know a few of the guys that I work with ended up going to prison over that job. They were developers on that project, and there was a whole story behind this. It's in all the news. There's going to be a movie I think made about it, I don't want to get into that as much as we got involved to bring that thing in. It's a $300 million job, and we designed and built that project in 13 months. From the time they sat down with me in November of 2020, at the end of COVID, they said, we got to get this open in the next 13 months. We were $100 million over budget when they gave me the plans, and I put numbers to it. So we had to build and design and bring this thing back down as that was happening. And so I think, I guess if there was anything that relates to me, it's like the complexity and getting something open on time in the most difficult situation. That's what we would do. But that, I don't get, my name's not up on a shiny logo, and I got to pay for that. They want my logo up there.
So before we get the next question, who's going to play you in the movie?
I was thinking Brad Pitt, but I don't know. That's a funny story. It's funny you bring that up because we go through and there's a lot of people involved in that project, and we joke about it all the time, like who's going to play who on everyone that was involved in that program. So we'll see.
So after seeing a lot of your work, I was just wondering, are you working on any current projects? And if so, what's your goal for each of them?
Yeah, so we just wrapped up the Marlins Cardinals. We're still got more work to do. That's out in Jupiter, Florida. About $150 million job. We're the program manager overseeing that project. We actually got, again, that was one of the projects where the Marlins called me in the middle of the night and said, hey, we need you to be out here next week. We're going to go off a cliff here, we think, and we need some help. And so I usually don't get involved in that on a job that size and get as much involved in it as I do in that one. But because the owner called me, I really felt like I needed to make sure it went well, and so I'm out there quite a bit managing that. We got another 8-9 months of that. We're doing Gilbert Regional Park right now, which is phase 2 and 3. It's a $322 million park. And we're building, we did phase 1 and we're building phase 2 right now. So that project is about 2 months away from starting, breaking ground. Oh gosh. We got the University of Missouri project where we're the football stadium where we're acting as a cost estimator, helping them reconcile and get a fair deal on their numbers. We have 2 big RFQs that we're responding to right now. We're waiting on. We submitted on the Tampa Bay Rays new stadium project. It's about a $2 billion project. We're really trying to, my next goal as a company is to try to get on the $1 billion projects. I've got, my sweet spot has been like 200 to 500 million, but we're trying to get up to that. So we got that. We just found out we got shortlisted for the Phillies, new project out in Clearwater. So we're going to go after that project here in the next, next month. So anyway, those are things that are in my plate right now. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. One more selfish question. I got family in Jacksonville. Could you get on that project? I'm afraid the Jaguars are going to be stuck in Orlando for way too long.
One of my employees left me to go build that project, so it's a sour spot for me. But yeah, we did not. One of our competitors got that one. Yep. We have about 20. I mean, really 18. What's that? Oh yeah. And I think what's important about us is that we have, our whole team is designed to transfer and move. So we'll take, I've got 10 people over in the Marlins Cardinals, and I've got others that are getting ready on pre-con design. It doesn't take as much people. So we don't have this explosive growth. We have this slow, steady growth. our motto is that we have tried to treat ourselves, we like to think of ourselves as like this Delta Force or Navy SEALs, special mission kind of people. And so with that attitude, we end up managing those projects through that. But we have great sub-consultants that we use to help us. We have other, some of the cream of the crop of other people that come in and help certain parts of our business. Yeah.
Okay, well, Mark, thank you very much for taking your time to come back to the campus. Hopefully it doesn't look too different than when last time you were here. But
Yeah.
we are very grateful for your connection to GCC and your time and the information you shared with all the students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.